We're going to have more of you than less of us. We'll take John here, the gentleman in the middle, and then the gentleman back.
I'm policy manager in the Deane Council. And obviously Windsor is one of the most secure towns in the country. Yet, we're rarely able to produce CCTV evidence that has sufficient clarity to actually be used in court. We also have a CCTV operating when the current incidents don't want company. So then most people assume that CCTVs are deterrent. But I have to say, in the centre of Windsor, the group of Irish guards about 10 miles until the walks into them. The CCTV has not been discouraged them from funding the guy in. So I personally think that CCTV in our towns could be valued. What I want to ask you a question on, I want you to comment on the idea that the Olympic organisers got of having CCTV that has directional microphones in it so we can listen to conversations. Apparently this is vital to stop terrorism. I just wondered what your comments were.
My comment is this is already being trialled in Scotland on buses, and I wonder if anyone asked the Scots if they wanted that or not. We are rapidly surrendering these. Douglas' question, semi-rhetorical, and I respect you for asking questions, is, well, what are you afraid of? What have you got to hide? It's just your image. Well, now it's going to be just your image and your conversation. You may be comfortable with that because you always trust the people who govern. I don't.
No, I don't trust the people who govern. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. I can't throw them very far, sadly. And I don't have any hope, because I think I said that the next one is going to be any better. So I just live in a state of permanent pessimism. That's all right. The issue of the directional bugging and so on, I think there are, again, I come back to what I mentioned earlier, which is that if you had any confidence that the people who's going to be used on will be the right people, then I wouldn't have any problem with it at all. But it is a simple fact, it is a simple fact that from the outset, currently, you know it cannot be. Because for every person you bug who you believe to be an Islamic militant, you will have to bug 10 nuns. You will have to bug people who you know not to be guilty. It will end up being like Scotland said. It will be entirely directionless, because at the root of this is the following problem. I should have touched on this earlier. At the root of this is the following problem. We have a government and an opposition who have a very real enemy to our way of life out there. We could quibble about how competent that enemy is now, and how competent it may be in 10 years' time, or 20 years' time, or 30 years' time. But that enemy has not been identified by them. And at the same time that they have had this surge in what Alex would say, the assaults on our civil liberties, at the same time as they have had that surge of assaults on our civil liberties, they have refused to name the enemy that they would be assaulting themselves. And I think in the gap between these two things are most of the problems that Alex has identified.
Douglas, I think we're going to have to speed up, but my answer to what you just said is, even if the police had the powers Douglas had, who do you think they're going to watch? Sheikh Omar Bakr Mohammed, or the hot girl on the train talking about the night she had out last night?
Who would actually be Sheikh Omar's daughter, who's told us.
Well, she might be the Sheikh. But nevertheless, you see the point. These powers aren't, your arguments, Douglas, about, oh, if only the police had the right powers, they'd be able to get things done, would carry much more sway with me if the police didn't execute the wrong people on the underground.
Oh, come.
We as Conservatives probably generally are inclined to trust the police. That's our instinct, that's our favourite instinct, often. But what more do you want, Douglas, than the fact that one of the elite units in our police force, operating on all the intelligence you want them to have, carried out extrajudicial, accidental murder?
Well, the problem is that, by the way, you've told me another of my supporters, I have so many, you don't have enough shoes. The Menezes shooting is a very good example of incompetence. But it is, I don't think it should be. Well, no, I think they have to be incompetence who are improved. They should be better incompetence than the current incompetence. That was an interesting scenario. You take the point. Israel had been suffering suicide bombing for many years now. We knew, everyone knew, in the intelligence and security community, that there were going to be suicide bombings at some point on the British mainland. Why were our security forces not prepared for that scenario in advance? Better prepared for it. Why was it that London was able to be pretty much brought to a standstill over those 2 weeks at the possibility of, on the 22nd of July, when there was a shot? Why weren't they better prepared? We should be better prepared for this, but I suppose I go back to something I just said. I can't be criticised for supporting bad policy or bad outcomes. When for the simple reason, again, if the government had made it perfectly clear that we are facing an Islamist threat which uses suicide bombing as one of its tactics, and that the tactics to stop that would include shooting a suspected suicide bomber before he could detonate, I think I'd be much happier. As it is, you have this very strange situation continuing, where they pretend that there is not a threat at the same time as mealy mouth trying to attempt to deal with that.
Gentleman at the back.
I'd like to return to your claim that speed cameras are used as a source of revenue. And in my experience in Cheshire, this is not the case. We have a partnership with the police and the health service, and I can assure you that the political and local councils want to make sure that the sites are chosen where there is evidence that there have been injuries, and those injuries are speed related. It is going to be footprint sites, which will be the best at generating income, but we don't really do that. So my general point is all of these things need a political input from elected people to make sure that what one has done is reasonable.
Right, we're going to move straight on. There's another hand right at the back. Yes.
Mark Wallace of the Taxpayers Alliance and Say Interest will give the word right. One of the reasons, in my view, that the liberties of the innocent majority have been undermined so easily, so swiftly, is that the civil liberties lobby in the past focused quite openly and repeatedly heavily on the liberties of the guilty. While we have a Human Rights Act, it doesn't actually protect the human rights or civil liberties of innocent people, but it ends with heroin addicts in prison getting compensation for getting cold turkey. I personally believe there should be a tyranny of people over the state. I believe in habeas corpus, trial by jury. But once somebody's convicted, I happen to believe an extremely severe punishment. The locking up and throwing away the key of various people along these lines. And I think there should be a serious debate about more severe punishments than that. So I suppose the question for us is, where do civil liberties stop in the process? Or where does civil liberties extend to? And what should be the main focus? And indeed, to those, where should they start?
My answer is that what you said before your question was a fair summary of where Big Brother will appear on the Lancet and want to appear. I think Liberty does a very good job of representing the interests of the group you identified at the beginning, those subject to extradition, control orders, that sort of punishments. I think Liberty are extremely good on. I don't actually disagree with them. But what Big Brother is interested in doing is to progress the movements of concern for the law-abiding majority and the avoidance of sub-criminal standard penalties, ASBOs, exclusion orders, alcohol banning orders, CCTV coverage of innocent people. I think that's an agenda that currently has no real promise. So my answer is, I agree entirely with the premise of your question. Once convicted, we ought to punish firmly and severely, and there's nothing in my civil liberty handbook that says that's wrong.